Grace. Amazing. The parable for the day has been labeled everything from offensive to ridiculous. Though the language of the story conveys thoughts that cause us to ponder, we are invited through this story to see the very heart of God. Each of these laborers is invited to work. Each accepts the invitation, no doubt with anticipation of the pay that they will receive at the end of the day. The hours that they work differ. Those who had worked the entire time were excited to learn about the amount that was given to those who came later. Wow! If those who came later received the regular wages, what amount awaits those of us who've been working all day? Surely we who are being paid last will receive more. But those listening to this parable did not hear what was being said. Jesus said, "The kingdom of heaven is like." Jesus was not describing the social conditions of first century Palestine. Surely, the hearers thought, surely a mistake was being made. Surely the landowner did not have his mind on what he was doing. Those who came later were not equal to those who worked all day. The sentiments of the heart of God in this parable are clear. The story conveys, as one commentator shared, the scandalous nature of divine grace. The landowner went early in the morning to hire laborers. The laborers were waiting in the marketplace for the opportunity to work. The landowner checked even as the day wore on to see if more would be hired, and he hired workers up until the last hour. The laborers who had worked the entire day witnessed the unthinkable. The landowner actually paid everyone the same wage. Oh, the complaint was made to the landowner by those who labored the longest. You make them equal to us? Now the laborers had agreed to the wage. Why did they think they merited more? It seems as though this parable is raising issues about equity and inclusion. I know, those words, they rub you the wrong way perhaps. But please hear the heart of God. We live in a world where our worth is measured by our careers, our pay, and our material possessions. The landowner gives dignity to those who do not deserve it. This parable reminds us that even the ability to work is made possible by God. We see in our Old Testament passage for today that Jonah's upset too. He sees Nineveh and its citizens as moral fodder that God would do well to judge and annihilate. Jonah is upset that God changes God's mind. God does not zap them, destroy them, nor annihilate them. No, what does God do? God, in Jonah's view, makes these despicable people equal to us, in this case, equal to Israel, Nineveh is treated as though they are the chosen ones, the special ones, the ones that God loves and favors. There is a mantra about fairness whose cadence still can be heard today. The unemployed, those standing in the marketplace idle all day, let them starve. They have not earned their way. They are not as good as us. The emotionally and physically challenged, including them, cost too much. It's too distracting, especially since they're not as good as us. Well, even Paul says, one who does not work should not eat, right? But here we have yet another instance where context is critical. There are those who say, I do not need to go to jail or prison for my crimes. I can afford an attorney. I'm guilty, but I'm not a criminal because I'm not one of them. The same deed can be done, and the future of one is impacted forever while the record of others is expunged. Why? Because I'm not one of them. I'm not from Nineveh, the project's Nineveh. Now it is annoying enough that Jesus tells this parable about everyone receiving equal pay as though human beings are equal. Then the prophet Jonah is annoyed that God sends him to the less thans in hopes that the less thans will change their ways. Wow, how annoying it is when the less thans actually listen to Jonah and God does not destroy them. Now the book of Jonah's message is bad enough, and then Jesus tells this parable, and it is a description of the kingdom of heaven. Then the last straw, beloved, is the psalm for today. The last verse that we have in our reading says, this psalm, the Lord is gracious and full of compassion, slow to anger, and of great kindness. Well, darn it, it sounds as though God is full of grace. Why would a landowner hire those who were idle all day anyway? The parable said that the laborers explained that they were standing idle all day because no one has hired us. Today they may say, no one would hire us because I do not have transportation and the bus does not go to the vineyard. No one would hire me because all of the vineyards left my neighborhood as the drugs were being poured in, and I was not bringing them in. And in the parable, the landowner shares the same sentiment with the complaining laborers as God shares with Jonah. Am I not allowed to do what I choose with what belongs to me? It is God who determines that the first shall be last and the last first. It is God who is gracious and full of compassion. And it is this same God who reminds those listening that I can choose what to do with what belongs to me. Well, God treats us as though we are equal. We are, like it or not. No vote will be held on that matter, and the owner of us all approves that message. Grace? Amazing.